and welcome to Guiding Voices, our podcast where we dive deep into the inspiring stories of mentors who have successfully bridged the gap between African and Western education experience. Today we have Dr. Ola Ajayi. Dr. Ola Ajayi has his undergrad, master's, and PhD in computer science from the University of Lagos, and he did his postdoctoral fellowship at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. Right now, he is the oversees research in electrical and computer engineering at Queen's University, specifically at the Caesar Lab at the Queen's University. So today, let's welcome Dr. Ola as we go on our chats on the many experiences he's been through all through his journey. Welcome, Dr. Ola.
Hi, hello everybody. Nice to have. Thanks for having me here.
All right then. So I'll start my first question, and you can spin it whichever way you want to go. So I would say that can you share a bit of your journey in academia from the early days in Nigeria up until your current role in Canada with us?
Okay. Let's see. So I had my, like you rightly said, my first degree was from University of Lagos, computer science specifically. So I had my first degree, BSc, the MSc, and the PhD from University of Lagos at Coca. And after that, during my thesis, while doing my PhD, I got a job as an assistant lecturer in University of Lagos then. And then completing my thesis, I got promoted to an assistant lecturer 1. Then luckily, I went to University of Western Cape in South Africa for a 2-year postdoctoral program, right? And then I was retained there as a senior lecturer in Cape Town. So I stayed in South Africa for a total of about 4.5 years before moving to Canada. In Canada, I worked briefly as a college professor, and then that was for about just shy of a year before now moving to Queen's University in Ontario, where I serve as a research project manager for the Caesar Lab, Computing and Extreme, it's High Performance Computing Lab in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Queen's University. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell.
That's kind of a nutshell. I understand. Yeah. Because I know there are still some universities you didn't mention, but that's okay. We'll move on to the next. So, what were some defining challenges and opportunities that you faced in Nigeria and in South Africa, and how did that experience actually shape your career?
Interesting question. Yeah, so back then, like you probably know, back home in Nigeria, education, most people, when you go to university, most of our lecturers were like mini gods. You just talk to them anyhow. They would. I'm talking about 2000s, 1990s, right? People would randomly fail you if phone rings in class and then you fail everybody, or somebody's funny haircut and then you fail because you have a funny haircut. It's anyway. That's back then. That was one. You have that approach and that style of teaching was very different. I don't know if it's from a cultural perspective, but it was different. And then so that helped. I think that's one of the defining moments. Then there's also the issue of limited internet access and computing infrastructure in general. So these kind of limited opportunities, because for example, where internet is like luxury, it's not like now where it's everywhere. It's luxury, but thankfully UNILAG was a bit ahead of the curve, right? Where we thought some almost cutting-edge, leading-edge programming languages. For example, I think I learned C# back in 2002, 2003, and C# itself, Microsoft C# was released in 2000. So 2 years, and we're already teaching one of the most cutting-edge technologies back then. So UNILAG, they tried in their own way, honestly, in general, compared to most universities. UNILAG was a little bit ahead of the curve. Then, and in South Africa, that gave me a different perspective, right? In terms of, for example, better professor-student relationship, right? Students were more accessible. Then there was more funds available for research work. For example, you have a publication, the university will sponsor it. They will pay for it. All your publications and everything, the university was paid for. Unlike in Nigeria, where it was a bit of a challenge, you had to sort out how you would find your payment. Sometimes you get support from the university, but it was not as much, or it was more like a round robin. You give lecturer A today, lecturer B tomorrow, lecturer C tomorrow. So it wasn't like, so that limited that stifled your publication or publishing rate. So yeah, those are like major challenges I think I faced back then and kind of shaped where I am right now.
So how do you think these challenges actually then prepare or impact students' readiness for global careers and the digital economy that we're going for? Those challenges, and especially maybe you can speak to you for yourself. How do those challenges actually then prepare you for global careers?
So I think one of the key, how do these prepare me? I think being able to interact with people, like this improves student prof relationship. Okay, hold on. Let me take that again. So if you look at it from having to struggle, I don't want to use the word struggle, but having to go out beyond beyond the expectation, beyond what was given, to go out of the box to study or to take to learn these new technologies and to get to be at par with what is available globally was one of the major things, I think, because it wasn't like available in a platter of gold, right? Unlike here, back there you had to go outside, you had to read more textbooks, the lecturers would just give you the basic introduction, and then you have to go out and like really go out and read more. But luckily, I think, like I said, with more advanced in technology, there are also some very nice lecturers that you could meet up and walk up to, and they could also take time to review and take things, but they weren't that common. There were only a few of them here and there that you could do that too. So I think those challenges, in a way, I don't want to look at them as challenges. I think they were opportunities to build up on. They built to strengthen me as an individual. They made me a bit better prepared for challenge, to face any challenge that might be pushed, that I might encounter in my day-to-day life these days. It's like a good foundation, if I'm permitted to use that, to describe it that way.
And now I really want to ask questions about curriculum, right? And based on your teaching experience, because you were spoken about, you taught in Nigeria, you went and then you also taught in South Africa, and then you taught in Canada, and you're also teaching in the university space now, and you've actually taught in a college before where everything is very hands-on. What do you think is the difference in the resources and curriculum that really stands out to you?
Okay.
So look at the Nigerian curriculum in computer science for example. Look at the curriculum then in Canada or maybe in South Africa. What really stands out to you?
Okay. Interestingly, this might be like a very not the most popular response, but truth be told, I can only speak about computer science, like you said. I can only speak about the universities I've taught in. I can't talk about other places. And interestingly, most of these universities I've taught in actually follow the standard. There's a standard IEEE ACM curriculum for computer science. And to a large extent, they actually all follow it. There are some basic requirements. Yes, they may not follow it 100%, they may not follow it to the letter, but to a large extent, it kind of guides the general curriculum in itself, or how students are taught. Students need to be taught this particular topic or this particular course or something. So, largely for computer science, like I said, in universities, I would thought that they kind of follow the general guideline. How it is implemented differs, but they kind of, to a large extent, followed it. However, things like, so it's one thing to follow this guideline, it's another thing to actually, well, it's one thing to be able to want to follow it, it's another thing to actually be able to do it. Because infrastructure now becomes a problem, right? So you want to teach computer science, right? And we're talking about computer science, and you don't have computers to teach programming. Do you get what I'm saying? These are requirements. You can't teach computer science without, it just goes hand in hand. You want to teach them programming, and you're like, okay, turn on your computers now, let's fire up your ID, your integrated development environment, to practice Java, and people don't have computers in front of them. So those are challenges. Unlike here where, for example, downstairs, we have supercomputers downstairs. I don't own it. It's the university owns it, and students can use it. There are many nodes there. You can just walk down there, set up, do whatever you want to do. Right. So that curriculum, yes, like I said, curriculum it's good to follow. You're able to follow the curriculum, but sometimes it may be difficult to follow. Right. So those infrastructure was a major challenge, I think, in terms of applying adhering to the curriculum itself.
Adhering to the curriculum. And also from what I see also, infrastructure is the problem, and delivery might also be a problem, especially because it's going to be affected by our cultural nuances. For example, you cannot talk to a professor in certain ways.
Absolutely.
A professor is a god. A professor does not want to be corrected. A professor does not understand that when you're in front of a class and you don't know, it's also okay to say you don't know it. I can get back to you, or could you please send me an email and I'll follow up with that conversation.
Oh, no, you
yes.
Can do that. Professor, you can do that.
No, sincerely, I really, I really don't know what would you, I'm sorry to just ask this question. I know I always think about it. What do you think is really the reason why professors can say straight up that I don't know, or let me get back to you? For me, I have my understanding, and it's very straight. I can tell you straight up. I think it's the lack of humility. You remember, we always have this conversation. I always say, I think it's just humility. When humility is missing, you cannot impact. Impact makers are people that are humble, and it's because they're humble people because they want to serve. They want to serve. And until teachers and professors see themselves as servants for the students, they were indeed serving them. Not the other way around. So what do you think about that? That's part of one of my thought processes sometimes, when I sit there. So what do you think about that?
I mean, I agree, but I can build upon that further. I can also build upon that, right, on what you said. So yes, very valid. Building upon that, I think we also have to take into consideration, which is kind of alluded to, the culture, and then the economy or the situation of Africa in general. So Africa is highly cultural, right? It's highly cultural. We know that almost everywhere, almost every tribe, there's a high level of culture in Africa, and you don't have that thing where you just talk to people in general. So let's just do a very high level discussion on how to get a PhD or become a professor in an African university. So you start the journey, the BSc, MSc. So your MSc, your BSc is, it's 4 years plus X, where X is and then any unknown number due to a lot of the factors. So let's assume that this is somebody who resumed school, did 4 years, strike, ASU, this, that, 2 extra years. So it's undergraduate with 6 years. Then it starts an MSc, NYC, then MSc. MSc again, another 2 plus X. Let's keep it simple down. So the X is just 1 in this case. So you're down to 6 years plus 3 years now. 9 years.
9 years.
Then it starts a PhD. 4-year journey, ideally, plus X. And we know the way PhDs are. Your PhD is not structured. It's not like you do this. It's very depends on how your supervisor is basically the one who guides or determines your PhD, your success in your PhD. You know the way PhDs are. So you assume all things being equal should be 4 years, but you and I know many of my colleagues back then were on their 13th year of their PhD. The 10 years PhD. So you've seen somebody who has done like 10 years PhD, and they say he's done 6 plus 3, 9 plus 10 years is now 19 years. You get what I'm saying? He now comes into class and so he has this, do you know what it cost me to get this PhD? It's this. And then you now come and he's talking to you, so you expect that. I understand it's not the student's fault that he spent 19 years or 18 years or 15 years to get it, but we cannot take that away. It's going to be there. That fact, and this person has been here for so long, he's in himself an authority in himself. He's been here for a long time. So now he has risen to the ranks. Every 3 years, promotion. He's been risen to the rank of a professor. He spent 30 years of his life, right, to get to that position. Then you come and tell you that he does not know. No, he knows. He has to know. He will not tell you that he does not know. He knows. Even if he doesn't tell you the answer, he will tell you. It's going to be hard for. But yes, I agree with you. Humility should play a factor, but it is what it is. By the time you take on all these factors, it might be difficult for them to just say, I do not know.
I guess our trauma also plays a big role in it. So from everything you have described, that's a traumatic experience for someone spending 13 years doing a PhD. So obviously it becomes really ruthless when it becomes a professor. I get that. And that's one of the things actually we're working towards. We can still have our culture come into play, but again, we need to use our culture in ways and manners that actually changes our own society as Africans, right? We are not we don't have to imbibe the Western culture. No, we can just bring in tools and ensure that our own learning, our own education also translates to innovation. And that brings me to my next question. So what do you think is the role, or how can then we say partnership between the government, private organizations, universities can drive positive change in our education landscape in Africa?
Okay.
That partnership.
Yeah. So the partnership, generally speaking, we've been talking about how infrastructure is a challenge, right? We've spoken about, we have the curriculum, but in terms of implementing a curriculum, infrastructure might be a challenge. And the truth is, let's be very honest, technology is not cheap, right? And education itself is also not cheap. Back home, yes, we pay 20,000, 50,000. We can now maybe 100 or 150,000 per annum. You know what it's compared to universities in the UK or in Canada, you pay like tens of thousands of pounds for your education. So honestly, to start with, if you look at that 10,000 pounds, 150,000 naira, I mean, come on, the qualities will be different. You get what I'm saying? So that's that. So when I say education itself is not cheap, technology isn't cheap also. So bringing all this technological advancement to bring these things in, we say we want to teach computer science in the most state-of-the-art way. We want to teach them state-of-the-art technology. We want to teach them the advanced, the cutting-edge technology, data sciences. We want to talk about these big things. And you want to use internet. You want to use iPads. You want students to attend classes online. You get what I'm saying? You want to submit your assignments online. You want to do remote classes. You want to do hybrid classes, etc. They're expensive. So this is where governments and big organizations can come in. So, for example, from personal experience, I used to teach a course. So I used to teach one course, and we had more specifically, I used to teach cloud computing, and we used to have partners, AWS, Microsoft, and the likes, and they offer discounts for students who take their examinations. So they have 50% discount, 75% discount, depending on your performance. So students sign up for it. Pay a token. And just like $10 or something as against the $150 or whatever. And then if you pass, you can even get further discounts. So first of all, you could get $10 token to do, or instead of $150, you get $75 to pay, or as much as 75% off from those exams. So that was one way that they incentivize students to take those courses, and they would offer all their syllabus, all their content, the access to the labs, everything free. That was one thing that most of us at the organization used to do. In terms of government, I think I remember back then also, maybe this was due to COVID, but it was a thing too where in South Africa, for students, if you wanted to access any educational platform, you were not charged, your data was not charged. You can go online, but you're not charged. You know when I say MB and GB, your MB, your megabytes, MB, gigabyte and megabytes was not deducted for any educational platform you went to. So if I go to download things like PDFs, the educational content from University of X or University of Y, it doesn't count against your data quota. Yeah, your PDF files, so if you're going to www.xyzuniversity.com, as long as you're on that web page, your data quota is not reduced. So those were government incentives, right? The government is incentivizing that they're paying the telecoms for those kind of support. So those kind of supports, they may look minute, but they went a long way because students could be online and get courses and their materials that they needed without impacting their data, without having to pay much for it. So yes,
I don't even think the government really needs to pay. I think it's also kind of a good thing for organizations, telecommunication, organizations to also give that, more like their own contribution to education in Africa.
Yeah.
Because even another thing that also came to mind as we were talking about that is also the supercomputers we spoke about. So I remember during my PhD studies in the lab, sometimes we connect to kind of a government provided resource. It's called Westread. We have access to supercomputers, and we can run codes parallelly, because as much as we really, so I'll give an example. For example, running FDTD, right? You want to do that, it takes a whole lot of computing power for you to do that. So what we do is that you can get a logon onto one of the big supercomputers, on one of the nodes on it, and then you can run your code. So I think also
run your programs,
exactly. So that's a collaboration of universities.
Yes.
So instead of universities having that one, so they came together. So we have the West Grid, so that takes care of universities in the western side of Canada. And then you can then connect to that and be able to use one. So I think that just came to my mind as also one of the ways that
active. It's still active.
It is.
I think it's not part of Digital Research Alliance Canada. Yes, it is. Active.
Yes.
But
It's still very active.
Yeah.
It's still very active. So
funny enough, we do have that in Africa also. Funny enough, we have
really?
Ubuntu Nets. Yes, we have Ubuntu Nets, for example.
Yes, I remember.
But are they functional? It's a different thing. But yeah, we have them. Functionality is a different thing. That's a different thing. But we do have such EduRoam, for example. I know we used to use EduRoam. You could log into different places.
Yes, EduRoam.
How functional they are at this point is what I cannot speak to.
Right. So I know you work with a lot of students because I've seen you do that. And even where you are kind of stuck with students like all day, every day, everywhere, every time. So I know that you're very big on mentorship. So I just want you to share one of your memorable successes, because I know you still supervise PhDs and masters even in Africa. I want you to share a memorable success story from your mentorship work that highlights the impact of guidance and support for students.
Okay, so let me think about. Okay, one that just jumped to my head now is so this is back then in UNILAG, and this was back then in UNILAG, and I remember I had a few students. So yeah, I was course advisor, right? In UNILAG then, and the course advisor is just an individual who kind of advise, but it's like an intermediary between the university and the students. Kind of thing. There was a role back then, and so I used to have a few students who, because I kind of always had to have, I loved having an open door policy. People came into my office, so I had a group of students, about 5-6 of them, who usually just come to my office regularly. They were always there. End of the day, they're just there, like 4 guys, 2 girls, or something. They just used to hang out in my office. We talk, we used to discuss about different things, and they were very passionate. They were very brilliant students. But I'm just used to sit down and talk. After work, this is like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, before everybody go home, because I was waiting for traffic before I can drive back home. So I wanted the traffic, the road to be clear. So while just there, just with all these people, we used to talk about different approaches and different things they could start focusing on. Right. As computer science students, what courses can they take outside the typical curriculum? What platforms could they use? So the likes of Udemy, the likes of Coursera, those used to come up. And then even if they couldn't pay for that. So sometimes they would put money together and just use one account and buy one, and they would all share it. It's about trying to be creative and cool, because it was quite expensive to get those $20. It was quite expensive. This is a country where people live on less than $1 or $2 a day. So bringing $20 for a course was quite expensive. So they put money together, share the cost, share the access. Sometimes if I have access to share with them, they'll use it. And then they took these courses, Python, programming for Python, different data science courses and things like that. And some of them also got access to examination certifications. I told them, try the certifications, try this one, try looking at this one, try looking at Microsoft and those examinations back then. And fast forward 5, 6 years after, 7 years after, many of these guys, I still talk to them. Microsoft, one is in Microsoft Vancouver, the other one in Meta, Goldman Sachs in UK. They're in different places now, right? About 6 of them, all 6 of them are in top tier, to the glory of God, they're like in top tier companies globally, and they're doing very well for themselves. I think, I'm not going to mention names, but 2 of them are in Google, Meta. Yeah, they're in very good places now, and this was straight from UNILAG. They didn't go to do a master's. From their undergraduate, did the examinations, did their qualifying examinations, and they employed full-time staff. So yeah, those are like, I think those are good positive stories that cheer you up when you have to like that. Yeah.
So, and I want to say, so what would you say, or why would you say mentorship is crucial for African students and young professionals?
Okay.
especially
So
those pursuing as maybe your field. I'm sure you can talk to your field about your field. So if
yeah,
you want to talk, and if you want to talk generally, you're allowed to.
yeah,
So why do you
yeah.
believe mentorship is
I will talk about my own. I'll talk about my own field. And yes, especially STEM, right? You said.
yes.
So let's start with a general, and then I'll narrow it, a general view, and then I'll narrow it down to STEM and my own course. So mentorship and education in general. I think if I would quote people like Nelson Mandela, Dr. Dike Olukoya, and the likes, they'll say, education is one of the most powerful tools you can use to change your world. I'm paraphrasing, it's not the exact word, but basically education can take you places. But I will slightly adjust that saying, and I'll say, the right education can take you places. Yeah, because yes, you can be education is education. Yes, education means the ability to learn, but the right education. Let's not go into details as to why. So the right education can take you places. Now, that's just a general view. Education and mentorship can go a long way for you. Can go a long way. Excuse me. Now, if you narrow down to STEM in particular, right, and science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. These days, as you probably know, there's many buzzwords: AI, machine learning, data science, cloud, business analytics, smart A, smart B, smart kitchen, smart umbrella, sustainability, everything. These are keywords, and it's kind of confusing. Imagine somebody who gets into the university like, do I do this one? Do I do one of the questions I still hear to your date is, do I do Python or R? Do I go data science or data analytics? Somebody asks, what is data analytics in itself? This kind of question. I want to do machine learning. How is machine learning for AI? These are questions and because people are like, these are the buzzwords, and they're everywhere, and people are kind of confused as what exactly they do. How do they get into this? How do they get into this? What courses should they do? What certification should they take? What online courses? And I think this is where mentorship comes in. And this is where things like WeGuide, WeGuide learning initiatives is very key. Kinds of help people. That's the very essence of mentorship, right? You can help people streamline. Yes, you're not saying that you must do this, but just guide. Okay, what do you like? What's your passion? And then guide in that direction as to the best way to, or one of the best ways to get going in that direction, STEM related courses.
Just as a follow-up on what you said, right, we really need that guidance, because I remember being undergrad in Nigeria. You see everybody doing that. You want to do this, you want to do that. Mm-hmm. And you begin to spread yourself thin, and then you don't achieve anything, in the sense that you need a guide, a mentor to also help you even see what your strengths are. I know, as we always joke, I always say to you that my strength, when you compare to my friends that we did the same field in electrical engineering, my strength is different from their strength. I am an engineer that likes to talk. Not all engineers like to talk, and I found that my strength is a little different from what everybody is. But I didn't recognize that very quickly. It took me many years to recognize that this is my strength, this is my calling, being in this space of STEM, being in this space of engineering, and in this space of education. So you really need mentors, right, to also help you so that you don't go around, because gaining speed in the wrong direction is just failure, right? You can't just be running after and chasing everything all around.
Yeah.
So I know that in your quiet moment, because you're in academia, you're always surrounded by students, and you are also someone that's passionate about Africa, considering that you schooled for a while in Nigeria. What's your vision about the future of African education? What do you dream of? It's a deep question, and I know that a lot of people think about it and they push it aside and say that it's not possible. But I tell you it's possible. And all we need to do is to start, sow the seeds, and let it transcend generations. So what's your vision for future of African education?
Okay, so if you're going to be very honest, right, most African countries are late to the technology advancement party. They're late to the party. So we're talking about, these days we hear Tesla, self-driving cars, level 2 self-driving cars. We hear of advanced automation and things like that, smart beef, like all those things. And we compare it to Africa and many countries in Africa, and where people are still living in huts, yes, people, funny enough, I was watching, I'm like, what? People still live in a hut and still go, they still travel kilometers to go and fetch water on their head and stuff. They still do it till yesterday. Someone was telling me that, oh, the grandmother had this till yesterday. So, sharp contrast. Self-driving cars, right? You're just relaxing, you can't guy driving, somebody's fetching water. It's huge difference. And I think I understand why people say it's not possible. Why you said some people say it's not possible. Because when you look at it, you're like, where do you want to start from? Right? Where do you want to start? How do you want to get there? But I think, as we said, as earlier mentioned, education is very key. Education will go a long way in changing lives. I think STEM, not just STEM in particular, but beyond STEM, right education in the right direction can help Africa accelerate its development. It can help the countries, leapfrog to where their contemporaries are globally. To give a more specific example, so it's not like I'm just talking vaguely. Many people say, this, let's be a little bit more specific. Let's look at how, was it in 2001 when mobile phones were introduced to Nigeria, like the mobile GSM and co. And let's look at how between then and the growth we've seen from just that mobile communication. Apart from the fact that you don't need to travel to somebody's house and realize that the person is not at home. You've wasted fuel, wasted time, wasted process. You can just, sometimes you don't need to do, some things can be done over a phone call and sort things out. Building upon that, our e-commerce is thriving in Nigeria. Everybody is going to e-commerce, and one of the things in the new generation, e-commerce, everybody's doing e-commerce. You have, there's a positive and a negative side, but social media is huge also. These are all things that become very commonplace now, and these have. Let's move the whole STEM. Communication on the internet itself has helped many industries, even the music industry. All these are artists and co. You have a new song, you put it on YouTube, you have 1 million downloads, 1 million views and co. This is also the technology. This is the advent of technology and mobile phone and mobile communication and telecommunication in Nigeria. This is how much it has helped open so many industries, open many vistas of opportunities and co. Now let's think about what. So this is just mobile phone internet. Let's think about what automation, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence can do for the country. Do you get what I'm saying? So if ordinary, in quotes, ordinary internet can bring us this far, right? Let's now look at if we take it to the next level, right? We don't have to, and the good thing is we can rest on the shoulders of others. We don't have to start inventing, go to labs and start inventing them. We can apply those things that have been done and help us. Yes, we'll get to the level of invention, but let's even come to where everybody is, right? Where we don't have to go and fetch water from the river, right? Let's come to get to that stage. Technology, education are key enablers, right? So I feel like for me, my vision is and if you see the of my research, I try to see, I try to look at underserved communities, global south companies, and global south countries. See how do we adapt these technologies to resource-constrained environments, right? How do we bring in, fast internet to my village or my grandfather's village back home? You get what I'm saying? So how do we do those things? Those are kind of ways where I focus on my research work. So that's my own idea is that I think we can get there. It might take a while. It might not be 1 year, it might not be 2 years. But the good thing about technology is deploy it and to grow. Right? People adapt it and to grow. People come with creative ways of using it that you'd be like, oh, I didn't even think that was possible. Again, to the example, it was just mobile phone. Somehow mobile phone and 5 million views on YouTube. Do you know what I'm saying? Mobile e-commerce, Jumia, Konga, the likes, all from just internet. Somebody brought in 3G and was it 2G? It was not even 3G. It was 2G back then. You could text or something. Now we have 3G, we have 4G. You're talking about 5G, LTE, and the likes now. But yeah, that's my vision. I think we can get there. It might take a while. But we can get there.
Yeah, and I think also we are measuring our success with the Western lens. And that would also be discouraging if we do that, because culture plays a big part in who we are.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: self-driven cars. How many Africans wants to sit inside a self-driven car? Think about that. No, that's what I'm saying. So you understand what I mean? We need to come to a space of, as much as we're trying looking at
who we are.
exactly accepting who we are, knowing who we are, that still exists because we are dissociated from the fact that we are Africans, and we're beginning to see ourselves from the Western education. We're only saying that yes, we can combine both sides and then have kind of very robust education system.
Absolutely.
And that's what, yes, and that's why we're going to start to sow the seeds. It's a lot of work, like you said. It's a lot of work, but we can't just wait and watch. We just have to sow that seed now, and watch it grow, and just watch it grow. You wanted to add something on that?
Yeah, because what you just said now, I just thought about something, and I feel like in terms of integrating our culture into technology itself, I think we might want to slightly adapt our curriculum in general, our education curriculum itself.
Oh yeah. You remember that's part of the big work we do here.
Yeah, make it slightly more practical. So, for example, you have an MSc or a PhD thesis. They should address societal problems. I think it's one of the things that they did in Japan, where your thesis is same, for example, as a high-level example or hypothetical example. You are a civil engineer, and your thesis is how to construct a particular bridge from this place to another. Right. So your thesis is solving a local problem. It's not just something not imaginary, but something that's solving a Western problem. It's something that solves how do I connect Ekpe to Ikoyi kind of thing. Light rail system like we're doing now, or maybe some alternative transportation system, sustainable transportation for moving from Lagos to Ibadan, as an example, or moving from the north to from Sokoto to down to the south or to the east. Those may be more practical, country-specific thesis or research work.
Yeah, and also that's why we see that one of the major differences, obviously, between our African system is that when it comes to African system, it's more very structured, it's memorization, and it's teacher-led. When you look at the Western space is student-centered, is hands-on experience, and it allows creative thinking. So what you just suggested is one space also where we can kind of allow that our creative space to come out. Like, we are creative people, but we always look at creativity from a place of design, arts, painting. We can be creative in every space there are, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, we're delivering the curriculum by using global standards and global tools, but we're not looking at our success or our growth in the lens of through the lens of the Western spaces. So to bring my closing question, and I'll let you go. How can professionals in diaspora like you then support and contribute to education reform and development in Africa?
Okay, so it's not always as straightforward as that. As not many people often, people don't really want to go back home, for example. Or most people are not, let me rephrase that. Most people are not willing to move back immediately to help back. And it's understandable. People have personal reasons, which is understandable, and there are some obvious reasons too why people want to go back. When you look at the state of things and why they want to go back. So yes, it's not as straightforward as saying people in diaspora are helping, but I think platforms and major initiatives needs to be put in place. Right, one of such is WGLI. It may not be instantly revolutionary, right? But it's a step, right? Tiny drops. Right? Some people will say, some school of thought will say, okay, recruit students from Africa and bring them to the Western world. Yes, that could also work. Yes, it would work. I mean, if I had the opportunity, and I would like to recruit students from not just Canada, but also try to get from Nigeria and other countries, African students in here to help educate. But then there are also things that are not directly in my control. So as much as I want to bring a student from Nigeria or from South Africa or from Kenya or from Ghana, right? There are issues like I said, issues outside my control. For example, I don't control the visa application process or visa process. I'm not the one that stamps visa. So you might do all the things right and then get rejected by the visa border control individual. So these are not things I can control. Proof of funds, for example, right? We know the way these schools are in the Western world. They want you to show, apart from the fact that I can pay school fees, you can also survive $20,000, $30,000, and you're like, somebody who hasn't eaten yesterday wants to get $30,000. You get what I'm saying? Those are factors that also are not exactly in our immediate control. So as much as you or this person is in the diaspora and wants to help, there are factors that you also have to take into consider that are not within their immediate control. However, for things that they can control, things that they might be able to control, or things that they might have a little bit of influence on, might be, for example, being an adjunct lecturer. Right. So an adjunct lecturer would be that, for example, you are able to take some courses online. Like I teach some courses in UNILAG, for example. I could teach some courses in UNILAG, or take some. So you earlier said I meant I still have students in South Africa and could PhD students and master students. Yes, that could be one thing you could, work with students and say, okay, let me, as a way of giving back, right? Okay, I'll be like a co-supervisor or a primary supervisor for students. No, I can't be primary because I'm not the co-supervisor for students in these countries, and then help give them access to the so-called supercomputers and where they can work and run their simulations and results. So it's a way of, it may not be, like I said, it may not be the most elaborate and grand sort of thing, but it is still something, right? And then, like I said, I will close with this. There is this saying by, I think it's Laila Kita. She says something like, with careful guidance and mentorship, you can reach your highest, or you can be your best person. With careful guidance and mentorship. And I think something like We Guide Learning Initiatives is following that line, where with guidance and mentorship and education, you can help students and you can help African students, reach their highest potential.
Wow, that was amazing.
And help willing African students reach their highest
willing African students. And I hope they are willing, right? I hope they are willing. And that's our cue to let you know that at We Guide Learning Initiative, we are in the front. We're a dynamic organization in the front of bridging that learning gap between the African experience and then the Western education system. And we do have programs on mentorship. We do curriculum development workshops. We're providing gateway to tech, and we're actually doing exchange programs as well. So for more information, visit our website. Is in the description of this video, and you can also reach us on our email. Everything will be left in the description below, in the description of this video. I would like to say thank you to Dr. Ola Ajayi. Thank you so much for the time. I wish we can go on talking, but I know we have to end this conversation now. And I know I know you, and I know the kind of work we do, and we're so blessed to have you at We Guide, because I know you're going to be impacting the next generation in a big way. And I just hope that you don't get tired. We just keep pushing to make Africa better each day and each time. So everybody, thank you again, and until next time, where we'll bring another mentor. Have a lovely time.